It's about like the ultimate integrated package with your road maps, your communications, your weather, your entertainment. There's never any doubt where you are, what you're doing, where you're going, how you're going to get there, when you're going to get there.
It brings new life to the older King Airs, and the older King Airs are worth doing it to.
It puts everything you need to know to complete any flight at your fingertips. Before we had radio, displays. The G1000 puts it all in 2 or 3 displays and integrates everything. Anything you need is right there.
The first time you turn it on, you're in awe. It's like Christmas time for the kids, the first time you plug in the Christmas tree and you're sitting up there in amazement. The panel is absolutely beautiful. It looks like it was factory installed. Then you start going through all the things it'll do.
It was the Garmin G1000 until we started to fly it. And then it kind of benevolently turned into the G-Wiz 1000 because it is kind of an eye-opener as to how incredible the system is compared to what we were flying. The information available to you with the system brings the safety factor way, way up. And that's what's worth the investment.
Safety in the G1000, you can start on the ground. With the safe taxi, it means safe taxi.
You always know right where you are. And when you get a clearance to go from here to there to there to there, it's easy to look on the safe taxi and actually see how you're supposed to go.
Has all the taxiways, has all the intersections, has the hot spots, it has your airplane position on the field. It's a real safety tool, and stress level definitely comes down.
It is a wonderful thing to have, and it's terrible to be without.
We have the charts in our database.
The approach plates and charts are unbelievable compared to the old Jepsons we had to carry around. Scramble around trying to find your charts, that's days of the past. It's all there right in front of you. You can scroll up or down. You can look at your minimums. You can plug them into your GPS and your Autopilot, and it'll let you know when you arrive at your minimums.
Minimums.
We have the Jepson charts, and you can actually see your airplane on approach on the chart.
It is just so easy to do.
You program it before you take off, and everything else after that is a non-event. Suck the gear up when you're ready to engage the autopilot, flip a few buttons, twist a few dials, and kick the autopilot off and land.
Your SIDs and stars, your arrivals, they're all programmed in the flight plan. You just follow the map, and it'll take you to your runway.
One of the airports we fly out of, there's a standard departure procedure that requires a heading to an altitude, to another heading, to an intercept, to a VOR, to another VOR. And with this FMS system, we can program all of that beforehand. You just call up the departure, load it in the flight plan, hit 400 feet. Now turn the autopilot on and sit and watch it.
The G-Wiz 1000 is right there on easeability of being able to put it in. And being able to review, edit, change, update what you're doing.
Loading the approaches gives you the intermediate fixes, your step-down altitudes. If you get a runway change from 17 left to 18 right, the change in the approach is not a problem. Push a button, twist a dial, push a button, and you're there.
I couldn't wait to shoot LPV approach.
The LPV gives us a much better feel for where the airport's supposed to be. You know, when you hit that altitude, you look out the front of the airplane and the lights are there, the runway's there, and everything's right there where it's supposed to be.
Compared to an ILS, it is much easier, smoother. I was going into Hayden, Colorado. It has a lot of step downs going down the side of those mountains. And just to be able to follow the glide slope down was just amazing.
After you fly a GPS approach, you find as far as stability of the glide path versus the glide slope, it's a much more solid signal.
It lets you do a stabilized approach, and that's the most important thing to having a successful outcome on a non-precision approach, is a stabilized final.
When you're coming into an uncontrolled airport without the rabbits, without the lights at night, to have that vertical guidance, once you've had it, you would not be without it.
Even for visual approaches, it's great. You know, we can put an approach in there, have the GPS fly it. We can keep our head out of the cockpit looking around for other airplanes.
I mean, when you're looking at the screen and watching the G1000 do its thing, you just sit back in amazement because I've never flown anything like it.
Just very little to do. It's quick, it's easy, it's Garmin.
I was a little skeptical about the Autopilot, I'll be honest with you. I didn't know anything about a Garmin Autopilot, but let me reassure you, it is a fine piece of equipment.
The Garmin GFC 700 Autopilot is as smooth and rock solid of an autopilot as I've ever had the opportunity to fly behind.
It doesn't grab. When you turn it on, there's no jerk, there's no, you don't know it's on, it's just on. It just starts flying the airplane.
Oh, this Autopilot is wonderful. It's tight, it's clean, it's very user-friendly.
Everything's push button. It ties into your flight director system, your approaches. It's got VNAV.
Being able to actually put in VNAV descent points and have the airplane fly to those rather than, you know, the old mental calculation of how fast am I going across the ground, how much altitude, how much time. You can just plug the numbers in, push the button, and it goes.
Press, boom, and then you're done.
I've done 2 or 3, a couple missed approaches, and that's another thing. You just push the button and sit back, add power, and clean it up, and then let the G1000 take you there.
It'll cross every intersection, every fix at the altitude that's published, and it just starts down so smooth. It's unbelievable, really.
The Filch motor, FLC, flight level change, what I typically find is in smooth air on climb out, it's going to hold within 1 or 2 knots. Once it finds its sweet spot, it holds it. It doesn't vary.
When you're 200 feet from your altitude, you'll still be climbing 900 feet a minute or something like that, and just know you're just going to blow through your altitude with abandon, you know. But it levels off and you don't feel it. And it does the same thing coming down.
The G1000 comes as close to a person being able to feather a climb, a descent, a turn, as I believe an autopilot possibly could.
It's a powerful piece of equipment.
It'll do everything but program itself. So, the terrain warnings work so well.
Terrain.
We have the one area that we fly to where we fly down a valley with a ridge on each side of us. And we know at the end of the valley we make a right turn and land. And if you start the turn too early, by the time you're established in the turn, the system is squawking at you telling you don't do that.
Terrain ahead. Pull up. Warning. Terrain.
It's also extremely accurate because if we can start a climb or something, if it shows we're going to clear the terrain, it will shut up and, you know, let us fly.
Last week or the week before, I was in Pennsylvania somewhere. When we departed at night, having that terrain function on was humongous because even though you couldn't see it, you knew exactly where that hill was.
and having the obstacle database in there. At times when the visibility's down a little bit, it's nice to know that if there's something sticking up, you're going to see it.
To have that insurance policy of that terrain awareness warning system back there in the background watching you all the time, you cannot put a price tag on that.
The synthetic vision is just awesome. Being able to see where the runway is when you're still in the clouds gives you lots more confidence, and it makes it a lot easier to shoot the approach.
I don't care how bad it is, you're looking at the numbers on the end of the runway, it's just like daylight. You're looking at the center line of the runway.
One thing that was kind of a shock factor to me was coming in as you cross the end of the runway. You see it flash under you like that, and you know you're over the runway. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
We kind of benevolently say every day is a VFR day in the G1000, regardless of the weather, because you can actually see synthetically where you're going.
In the mountains, the SynViz is invaluable. I went to Charlottesville, Virginia not too long ago, and of course they've got a significant little range of hills out just to the west of Charlottesville. I could actually see the mountains there on the PFDs.
It's something solid that you can bank on and say, hey, when I break out at 250 feet and a half mile, there's going to be concrete there I'm going to be looking at, not the side of a hill.
One of the first flights that we took had an organ transplant team on board at night, lousy weather, low visibilities, snow, in the IMC the whole time. But we had the G1000, and it was a wow moment for us to get ourselves established on the localizer and, you know, find out that, gosh, the airport really is out there because you can see it.
I turned the SynViz off one time and did an approach. I turned it back on real quick. It makes that much difference.
It's really a safety feature.
And all it has to do is keep you from sticking your nose in the ground one time. And it's paid for itself 1,000 times over.
What else can I say about synthetic vision? I don't want to be without it.
Every day is a VFR day.
The traffic page is so valuable.
Yeah, they tell you you're following a certain airplane, and you can see them out there. You can see them on the traffic display. You know, you've got the final approach line coming away from the airport, and you see them lining up on it, so you know who you're following.
And you see it multiple times. Once on the traffic page, and the other time on the synthetic vision. A tremendous mitigation of risk.
The weather system is unbelievable. You have weather that you've never dreamed possible.
Scroll here, push a button, you have everything you want.
You have lightning, you have thunderstorms, you've got freezing levels, you have winds.
You can get the SIGMITs, the AirMITs.
Want to look at a terminal area forecast, push a button, you've got it. You want to look at the current weather, push a button, you've got it.
You don't have to go off frequency to get your weather at different places.
If you have a primary airport and then you have your alternate, and the weather's bad in both, and you're worried about getting into one of the two, you can go back and forth, and look and see which one's coming up and which one's going down, which has helped me in more than one occasion.
Picking an altitude becomes so much easier.
I was bucking an 80-knot wind the other day at 22,000 feet, went over to the weather page, and pulled up the winds. It said at 15,000 I'd lose 30 knots of wind, so I dropped down to 16, and sure enough, I dropped 30 knots of wind. With the NexRad, You go out and look at the whole country, see where the weather is and what the best way to tackle it is. It's like having a flight service station in your cockpit.
The G1000 gives me the confidence to go into a brand new place under adverse weather conditions and feel like that I'm doing it safely.
I could move the arrow to a corner of a storm system and fly directly to the corner of the storm and then go around it and pick up my direct to and go back to my original airport.
I pan all the time with the product.
Being able to pan out, look at things, zoom in on them, find out what's really there, and then having the lakes identified, the highways identified, the cities identified.
That's huge and critical, especially if you're doing longer trips.
It looks good when your passengers say, "Where are we?" And you say, "Well, we're 3 miles north of Honubby," and you can show them on the map where it is because they think we're that good, but really it's just the system. So.
Certainly having digital gauges is another plus with the G1000.
They're easy to read, they're brightly colored, the lighting is great.
With the G1000, the whole gauge turns red if something's not right.
Quick run down the panel, there's no red, you're good to go.
It lets you know exactly what your engines are doing, not just about.
Without question, more of a digital components that we have are much more reliable than the older ones.
It's just like you're old, but in a new age.
And so many of the engine parameters and flight parameters are now recorded onto an SD card.
It tells you when you start rolling, when you rotate, how fast you're climbing, what your engines are doing.
It's real powerful stuff.
The system was very easy to learn.
Yeah, you got to learn a little bit, but wow, not that hard at all. As a matter of fact, just a couple of flights and you're in the box.
Anybody that has 400 or 500 experience will not have any problem with the G1000.
More than the learning curve, it was more of a wow curve. Because every time you'd fly it, you'd maybe learn something else that was really neat that would wow you about it.
Garmin has done about as good a job as you can do of taking something that is so robust in function and feature and make it intuitive and make it simple.
Once you get used to the system, it cuts the workload way down.
The stress level and the fatigue factor goes down with good information. And that's what you're getting.
It takes away a lot of the tension.
The G1000 has proven to be the most reliable, the most consistent right seat participant, co-pilot that a person could ever have.
There's no question that it is a much safer environment for us to be operating in.
It keeps me a lot calmer too because I'm listening to XM music most of the time. So.
All my passengers love the XM. To be honest with you, I love to listen to the football games when I'm offline and can't get to the TV. It's definitely an added feature that you don't think of until you're sitting up there lonesome.
Once you're in cruise, you've got nothing but time. Instead of just arriving wiped out, now your brain's been engaged the whole time. Singing along with the music, make sure the intercom's off first.
I can't believe I went without it. I won't be without it again.
One of the exciting things to me in the installation of the G1000 was the weight savings.
We gained 350 pounds of useful load.
That's big. That is a real savings.
We gain at least 200 pounds, close to 300, which is huge for us. That's one good-sized human being, or a lot of baggage, or in our case, fuel.
We took the old stuff, all of it came out when we put the G1000 in the airplane.
The nose section looked like they just opened it up and put a fire hose in it and washed everything out.
My first taxi, I could tell the nose was lighter. On the approaches, you're able to slow it down at a slower speed and still feel comfortable.
Boy, when you take a look at the amount of hardware that is being pulled out compared to what is being put in, you don't have to have your PhD to know that this makes a lot of sense in terms of the reliability factor and, that you're actually giving to the aircraft.
If you take the Garmin package, the G1000, and you take the 350 pounds that you gain and use for load, you have an airplane that's better than a new one.
It's been an extremely reliable system.
We probably have 200, 250 hours on the G1000, and we don't have one squawk, not the first one.
If something goes wrong, it's going to tell you about it, and that happens very seldom.
I just love it. I can count on it.
That's what you pay for. I mean, you want reliability, you want accuracy, you want dependability, and I guess the confidence in your equipment and is what I'm looking for, and this is giving it to me.
You're not going to use every capability every trip, but the applications are there so that you can adjust to the trip that you have.
I think I'd retire first before I'd go back to the old way.
Would not be without it.
It's just amazing that we have this type of technology available to us affordably.
Financially, it makes great sense to upgrade an older airplane with the newer avionics, breathe new life into it, and keep flying it.
We looked at every system on the market, and for the money, you cannot beat the G1000.
So we get all the capabilities at a lower price. Where's the downside? I didn't find one.
It's a proven system. Garmin has always excelled. As far as I'm concerned, they're the leader in GPS.
I think they're very innovative in how they put things together.
I'm a Garmin fan, and as you can tell, I wouldn't have anything but Garmin.
And the price point on them, you can't argue with. They're doing what everybody else is doing for less money, and they're doing it better.
It's just an amazing piece of equipment. It makes your whole life easier.
This is not your average run-of-the-mill King Air anymore. It's put new life back in the airplane.
What a wonderful product. Again and again, I say, wow.